listen up. Y'all, it's the queen of automation, Megan Donnelly, here to give you inspiration. Founders and business owners gather round. I'ma show you how to build systems that'll astound. Streamline your processes, no need for complicated.
Everybody, welcome back to the Queen of Automation podcast, where we talk about why technology is only good when it works and how I help you make it work. Today is going to be extremely fun because we are talking with Natasha Walstra. She is a sales and branding expert. She focuses on social selling, LinkedIn leadership, all the stuff, which we love to talk about because we're obsessed with LinkedIn. Who isn't? If you're an entrepreneur, you're obsessed with LinkedIn. It's just what happens. But I'm going to let her introduce herself. And she is such a cool person. She's a mom, which we're moms on our team as well. And she just went through a transition of having a baby. So we're going to have so much fun to talk about all of these fun things, because when you're a mom and you have a new baby and you're running your own business, it's kind of like a dumpster fire. You're like, whoa, what's happening? Like, I have this thing to care for over here. This is my little baby. And then I have a business and I have, okay, all the things. Awesome. Let's see how this works. Anyway, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And please tell us where you're calling in from, and then tell us all about what you're up to in 2025. Ignore the dog.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Megan. I'm excited to be here, and I know I had to reschedule because my baby decided to come a little bit early, and this is actually my first podcast since I've been back. And so even saying that I'm a mom is like, it's so crazy. Like, I've somehow adopted this new title now. Even like introducing like, oh, this is my son. I'm like, wait, I have a son. Like, that is so crazy. So, well, thank you so much.
Remind me again, this is baby 1 or 2?
This is my first one. So
yeah. Okay. So you are
so it's been a whirlwind.
Oh my God, I created a small human.
Yeah, it's really interesting too, because like having a family and having kids, like it's like one of the most normal things for people to do, but it's so not normal at all. Like, it's the craziest thing. And I was like, you all have been in this club and I didn't know it until you're in it too. Like, this is the craziest shit ever.
As a mom, when you have your first baby, I remember the feeling, and you have your first child and you're like, oh my God, I created another kid. Oh my God, this is really weird. Like, what am I supposed to do next?
Does that ever go away? Like, I was just changing him this morning. I'm like, this is like our little child,
Yes, to be fair, well, for me, it does, because I have 4 now. So I'm like, I'll go in the other room. Like, it's like they say, I was just telling Andrea this like a couple weeks ago. You have 1 child, and it feels like you have 1 child. You have 2 children, and it feels like you have 20. You have 3 children, it's 50. You have 4 children, it's like you feel like
exponential growth. Love it.
You're like, wee, this is great, And so it's crazy how that is such a normal thing to say. And every time I tell that to another mom, they're like, that makes so much sense. And it's once you have the multiple, you kind of start feeling like the shock of creating another human it's just kind of gone now. I'm like, why did I choose to have 4 children? What the heck was I thinking? Am I insane? Like, why would anyone do this to themselves? But the one was great. Like, and they're all great. I love my kids. They're amazing. But there are days I wake up and go, what is wrong with me? Like, why did I choose to do this? Who on their right mind would want to have 4 kids? Like, but it's super fun. So I want to hear about 2025 for you, because I know, and actually talk about 2024 too, because you've had a thriving business for a while now. Like, I consider you to be super successful in what you're doing. And that's one of the reasons we reached out in the first place to talk to you, because I'm like, sweet, another women entrepreneur who's like figured out this whole LinkedIn thing and figured out this whole, like, I want to run my own business. And now, like, joining motherhood it's a totally different experience, right? Like, and so I want to hear all about it. Tell everybody about all the things, because I don't even know how to describe it to them. I'm going to let you describe it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, of course. And it's been a wild ride, honestly. So I started my business, I officially launched it in December of 2023. And I had started getting clients, I think, in October, so a few months before, but I actually, like, by the time I launched it, I already had, I think, 7, 8 paying clients. And it's because of the type of stuff I was doing on LinkedIn, right? And that's what I love so much about the opportunity of like what LinkedIn can do. It's like I had no brand, no website, no company name, but here I was getting clients, and it's just like so magical. So obviously I built a whole business around LinkedIn, and I get to teach people how to do the same thing. So it's awesome, but I like love it so much. And it's crazy because I'm not active on social media in my personal life. Like I still, even to this day, like the post I did today was kind of an introduction, which I've never done before. Cause like it's hard showing up and blending that personal and professional, you know, and I overthink everything as it is. And so that's actually why I kind of created this program to help people not have to go through what I went through, the years of like, do I hit press, like publish, like, do I do this, you know? And so it's tough, it's hard,
I'm gonna
but
jump in and comment on that for a second, because what you should, and the only reason I apologize, the only reason I'm interrupting is because what you just said, I want everybody to like unpack that for a minute, because I feel like everyone has that issue, right? Like we do for our clients all these amazing things. And then when we try to do those same things for ourselves and our own brand and our own company, good luck. Like
yeah.
we're so good at it for everybody else, but then when we have to do it for ourselves, we're like, it's almost, I don't know what happens. It's just this weird like mindset syndrome, like whatever you want to call it, imposter syndrome, I think is what you said before. Why is that? Like, it's so funny to me. I'm so happy to hear you say that, because I feel like that all the time. I'm
Yeah.
like, I can do it for them. Why can't I do it for me? Like, this is
Well,
ridiculous.
So there's a great analogy for that. It's I don't know if you've ever heard this, but when you're inside a pickle jar, you can't see the label on the outside, right? So like I'm like so deep inside my pickle jar right now, I have no idea what it's saying, and so I've been having like a minor like a minor identity crisis the last few weeks. Yeah, it's a great visual, right? Because now like literally like I can't see it, and so that's why you need that help, that external objectivity to help you read that label, and otherwise you're just going to keep playing around with something forever, and you're never going to get anywhere.
They're business coaches, right? Like, it's so funny because you need, especially when you're a solo entrepreneur, right? Like it's lonely. It's super lonely. And that's why you need like networking connections, and you need some sort of community or like business community or coach or something, because it gets super lonely, right? Like if you're the only person, you don't have a team of people, and it's overwhelming and lonely. And like, I think that fear, like, is still not talked about in a regular way that should be talked about more. Like, and people are afraid they're afraid to be afraid, and they're afraid to tell people that they need help. They're afraid to tell people they're lonely. And it's like, rip off the Band-Aid. Like, you're a human. You're allowed to be human. Like, you're allowed to be human as a solopreneur. Like, just be human. Well, ask for help. It's okay. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Take time off.
That's why community, but that's why community also is so important too, because like by having a community of other fellow entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, like it makes you feel a little bit less lonely because they're going through the same stuff too. And so it feels like, okay, I don't have like real colleagues, quote unquote, but I've got my, you know, adjacent colleagues, let's say. So it works. It's nice to have that.
I totally get it. I'm in brand build, and I absolutely love it. It's great. Like, the community it's awesome. Like, having all those people that they have your back, right? Like, you just want to talk to them, and they will talk to you about anything, and being able to just have like group chats or single chats with all of these other entrepreneurs that are going through the same thing. It's like, that's the most amazing value that those types of communities bring. But let's talk about social selling, because I feel like it, and you tell me, I feel like it gets a really negative, like, people think of it negatively, right? Because nobody wants to be sold to. When I think of social selling, I don't think of it that way, because it's different. It's not used car salesman selling, right? Like, this is not that type of selling. The fact that you've been able to do, like, combine your selling background with your personal branding background, and, you know, together, that's the success of like social selling, using your personal brand to put yourself out there, right? Am I wrong?
Well, and no, that's exactly it. And I didn't necessarily know I was doing it at the time. I had landed a job as an SDR where I had to cold call, smile and dial $100 a day. Like, there's literally a mirror in front of my desk, right? Yeah, it was brutal. I was terrible at it too. Like, I cried a lot, had nightmares and stuff, but I'm also very competitive. And so I had to find a way what's that? Yeah, it was horrible. But like, truly, I was terrible at it. Being an introvert, and I used to be super shy as well. It's like probably quite literally the worst position I could have gotten. But I'm also really competitive, and so I had to find a way to still hit my numbers, but that didn't lead to me crying every day. And so I discovered using LinkedIn as a way to connect and network, and then warm call. And it turned out people were much more receptive to that. And so this was almost 10 years ago. From there, I started to realize like, okay, it's all about relationship building and like connecting, networking, and doing things in a way that's like very human and, genuine. And so that's kind of what I like. And it's funny you say that social selling, it has a bad rep, like sales in general does. And so when I'm talking with clients and or prospects, even like when I say social selling, I literally just mean having conversations, right, with the right people. So we want to make sure, like, is it ideal clients? Is it referral partners? Is it possible like speaking engagements? Is it just networking, right? And like those are good conversations, right? And I think people struggle with how to initiate those conversations, and that's what I do. That's what I help my clients do.
That's like one of the best answers I've heard, because people, first of all, social and selling, both of them have this negative connotation, if you will, because like so many people are over social media, right? Like they don't want to deal with it. And I mean, a lot of businesses and stuff like that, they know they need it, but it's also kind of ick to them. Same thing goes with sales. You know you need it, but it's like, ugh, I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to reach out to people. I don't want to. And it's people like yourself that are like helping those people that are like, oh, ick. Not be icky, right? Because it doesn't have to be. And I think that's the biggest thing is you don't have to, it doesn't have to be icky. It doesn't have to be uncomfortable. It really doesn't. Like you can just have a normal conversation and then, oh, wow, you want to work with me? Oh my God, you're going to give me money? Cool. Like, it's really that simple. And it's so funny because I think people get scared and they make it way harder than it needs to be. And it goes back to, I mean, LinkedIn is a big networking event, like, right? Like South by Southwest and all these big events that we used to all go to before COVID hit. And like, that's what LinkedIn is one giant networking event every day.
Yeah. Like, but people are super weird on there. That's the thing, is like they do stuff that you wouldn't ever do in real life or that you wouldn't want to respond to either. And it's like, stop doing that. Like, just like, and it sounds cliche or it's being overused, like just to be human. Yeah. Just be human.
There's so much non-human like behavior on LinkedIn, and it's so weird. And I'm like, would you go to a networking event and say that to somebody like in person and to their face? And they're like, no. And I'm like, then why are you telling me this? Like, don't. Well,
and that's what I say to people. It's like, what you have to do, like, think about what you would do at an event. And we just want to amplify that now on LinkedIn. Like, I get that it's uncomfortable because we are the first generation to be interacting this way. So it is going to feel unnatural regardless. But like, think about what you would do IRL and just like, translate that into what the digital version of that is. It's really not that difficult, but people are super weird on there. It's like, it blows my mind every single day, the things I see.
LinkedIn is a funny place. It really is. Because like, it's so, like you said before, it's so amazing. The opportunity that's there is unreal, right? Like the amount of opportunity that's on LinkedIn for small businesses and even, I mean, big businesses, just businesses in general, like, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you have this audience that, I mean, you have like an untapped audience. I mean, there's so many people. I don't even know what the stats are right now. It's like, what, a billion people or something. I mean, it's so like ridiculous, the amount of people that are on LinkedIn, the amount of businesses that are on LinkedIn. It's close to like Facebook numbers now, right? Like it's insane to me. Why would you not use that? Anyway, whatever. It's so ridiculous. I would love to hear, and this is a perfect conversation to have with you right now because you just had a baby. We always talk about, I always ask my guests who come on about work-life balance, right? Because I personally do not believe in it, in the sense that you can't separate your life, like you're one person. I mean, if I could clone myself, right? Like if I could clone myself, it would be great, like awesome, wonderful, but you can't. So the actual term work-life balance is junk, right? Like it's crap to me, because you can work on personal things and you can work on work things. You can do personal things, work things, whatever, but it's still one life. You have one life, right? So I tell people that I always talk to other solopreneurs and other small business owners and stuff like that. I say things like, stop just trying to build a business and a career and start building a lifestyle that you like. Your business and your work and what you're doing, that is a tool to create the lifestyle you want to live. And sometimes people are like, whoa, like they don't think about it that way. Just like money, right? Like money is a tool. You can always create more of it. I can go out and be an Uber driver. I can create a lemonade stand. I can go work, you know what I mean? Like you can always create more money. You can go get more
Yeah.
money if you have to. And I feel the same way about work-life balance. It's like one of those things where people are so, I think they want to like I get wanting to separate. Like if you work for corporate,
Mhm.
you have a 9 to 5 job, 8 to 5 job, whatever, and then you have a home life. And so when they, I think that's originally where the term came from, like work-life balance, but it's still one life. Like it's
Yeah.
still, there's only one of you. Like you can't separate yourself. I don't know. It's a very strange concept to me. I would love to give your take on this right now because you right now are living it, right?
Yeah.
I've had, my youngest is 15 years old. So I've had plenty of time to figure out this whole like kid work thing, whatever. I would love to hear it from your perspective right now because you're going through it right now. You are figuring out, okay, right now I'm doing personal things and right now I'm doing work things and I'm going to create my schedule around my small human and yay me, right? Like I don't
Yeah.
crazy.
It is crazy. I think I didn't know, like when I started my business, so having a baby, that was a little bit of a surprise. And so we're very grateful and blessed about it, but it wasn't planned necessarily. So I didn't know
Had that.
going into starting my business that I basically started to actually create the life that is kind of perfect for welcoming a child into this world because I can plan my life around my baby and work. Like he's right next
Yep.
door. I can hear him right now. You know what I mean? And so I could not imagine if I had to go into an office right now because he's only 2 months old. Like I started working. Well, so he was in the NICU for 28 days because he came 2 months early. And then he came home and like a week later, I was ready to start working. Not to say that I'm like rushing into it. That's not it. I was rested. I have him here, got into my routine that didn't really change that much because I was already home, and so, and I have a very supportive husband who's here too. So yeah. So we kind of like it's an integrated work life thing because I love what I
There
do
you
and
go.
I'm home, Yeah. So
That
it's going really great, surprisingly.
That is the word that I've heard most often now since I started this podcast and started asking the question from other small business owners and founders and solopreneurs. Integration, work-life integration. It makes so much more sense to me because you're not ever going to balance it. Like it's not a balance. It's not about balance. And that's the thing is it's not about balance. It's about integrating the two parts of your life
Mhm.
together in a way that works for you because what you do on a daily basis may not be what I do on a daily basis. Your lunch, you could take lunch at 11 a.m. and I could take lunch at 2 p.m. Like it doesn't like there's no cookie cutter way of running a business. So that's
Yeah.
why that
I mean,
concept always made me laugh because I'm like, balance? What the heck is that? Like, and life is not balanced. Adulting is hard. Babies are
yeah.
hard. Kids are hard. Like life in general there's no balance. Like you get into a car accident, that's going to throw your entire day off. Like you can't control that. So
Mhm.
trying to control like the work-life balance thing never made sense to me. It just never made sense. Like I don't get it.
Yeah.
Because
No,
your life
definitely
gets
not.
in the way of your balance, which whatever. Anyway,
I mean, it
I
looks a lot different now. Like on my calendar, I've got, pumping every 3 hours and stuff like that. That's like
oh,
very
man,
different than what I would have had.
I will say I don't miss
But
that. It was
yeah,
great to be able to do it and be one of those moms that was it actually came pretty easy for me. So it was great to be able to do that. But now like looking back, I'm like, no. Like I'm
yeah,
so glad I'm over that part of it. I'm like, oh man, I tell you, working moms, awesome. I would love to hear because as this is another question that is so we obviously talk about ops and technology and systems and processes on this podcast, right? Like that's what I'm all about. And so I find it super fascinating talking to because again, it's one of those things, there's no cookie cutter, right? Like every business is different. And it actually kind of pisses me off when you see these people selling like blueprints and what like we can grow your there is no blueprint for a business. Every business and personality is different. What I do is going to be different than what you do because one, our personalities are different, our style is probably different, and there's like 10 million different ways of doing the same thing and getting results depending on how you put it into your business. So I would love to hear about that like perspective from you. Like how are you running the business behind the scenes. Like, give us a little peek. Like, how do you handle, because like you said, you didn't have a business name, you didn't have a website, you didn't have any of that stuff, but you had like 7 or 8 clients. Everyone does it different. Every single solopreneur that I have or that I've talked to does things a little bit differently, but they do what works for them, right? Like, you do you. Like, it doesn't have to be, and it doesn't have to be super fancy, right? Like, that's the thing that I've noticed, is that each and every person that I've talked to, it's just simple, right? Like, the ones that are successful at doing it, you keep it simple and you do what you have to do in the beginning with no money and bootstrapping. And then by the time you get to that next level, you've already got it figured out, which is kind of crazy to me. So tell me all about what that looks like for you now, especially as a new mom, right? Because I bet it's different. I bet it's different than if I talked to you a year ago. It's probably different than when, I don't know. And maybe it's not. I don't know.
It's not yet, but because I want to have more time, obviously, like the point of me being on my own is to be able to manage my schedule and not be working all the time. And, I want to have like spend time with my son, right? That's kind of the big thing here. I don't want to be busting my balls the whole time. So right now I work primarily one-on-one and I have teams. And what I'm going to be focusing more on is working more with my corporate clients. So having teams, which is bigger contracts and less time. And then I'm looking at transitioning my one-on-one clients into potentially a group coaching. I like the thing that, as you're saying, like everyone is different though. And so my one-on-one, like it works really well having one-on-one clients. Like they're very successful with the type of engagement that we have. And so I don't know if group coaching would end up ruining that. So I have to see, but I'm kind of exploring that right now. But I think going the teams route is going to be more of what I'm thinking, and like corporate route,
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because a lot of people have that like concern, right? Like because one-on-one coaching is amazing, right? Like, or one-on-one service-based, people, like working with people one-on-one is amazing because of the relationship you build, and like it's awesome. But then it's also, when you think about like right now you're going through that transition process of, and I just went through this last year. So you go through that transition process of, okay, well, what's my exit plan?
Mm-hmm.
Like, in 10 years, if I want to walk away from this business and I don't have sustainable reoccurring income, because it's only one-on-one coaching, or it's only one-on-one, and then, okay, what happens to those clients? What happens to those customers? Where do they go? And, it's like, once you get to a certain point in your life where like you either want more time for your baby, or you want to figure out like your retirement plan, like, or like you get to that point where you're like, oh crap, I never thought about this before. Like, I never thought about like, well, how do I want to move to the next step? And I didn't. I've been doing this since 2019 or even before. And I was like, when my business coach asked me that, I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
What's my exit plan? And then he's like, well, do your kids want this? And I'm like, no, they're not going to take my agency. And he's like, well, so then what are you going to do? He's like, you work on these really big projects one-on-one, and then maybe for a month, maybe 2 months, because my projects are really big projects, right? They're tech projects. And then maybe I don't have a new thing for a month, and then it goes, so I have like this. I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. Like, I'm just going, making money, making connections, bringing people on. Look at the dog.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how does this happen? Like, how do you, like, you get to the point where you're rocking and rolling and everything's going good, and then all of a sudden somebody with more experience asks you that question, and you just like stop. Okay, like, it was like I just stopped in my tracks. Like, why did you have to ask me that? I don't know what the answer to that question is. And so then I had to stop, because then it bugged me. And so then I had to stop and like think about like, well, what the heck am I going to do now? Like, and and he's like, well, I didn't mean for you, like, don't overthink it, but you do have to be conscious of it. And I remember, and he's like, what did you do when you had kids? And I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of went through the same transition, right? Because I had to figure out, well, I want to spend more time with my kids, but I still need to run my business, and I have to figure out, oh, okay. He's like, it's the same transition, but you're transitioning out. And I was like, it's kind of crazy because you don't think about that, right? Like you didn't think about that when you went into business. You weren't like, what's my exit plan?
No, well,
How do I
and then imagine too when I did get pregnant, and then I was like, well, shit, what am I going to do? Like, what is my maternity leave? Because that doesn't exist. And then I like came up with a plan, which of course didn't go according to plan at all, and I had to stop 2 months early because of what happened. So my business went on pause for 3 months, basically, which is not at all like that's not good, you
Great.
know.
Like this,
Even coming back to them, I'm like, shit, like how do I avoid that in the future too, right? And it's kind of the same sort of questions, like how can I make this a scalable business when it's just one-on-one, like you can't, you know. So
it's one of those things. And if you want to, so one of the things that the two things that we've been thinking about as a team and a group, I'm like, okay, well, we either figure out how to sell it, right? Like, so we have to figure out okay, let's just say in the next 5 years, we want to sell this. And that's not happening, by the way, any of you customers who are listening. Don't worry, not there yet. But it's like, if you want to sell it, then it's different. Like if you're building a scalable business to sell is totally different than building a business to like give to another partner, or like it's two completely different things. Because if you're selling it to someone or you're selling it to whoever's going to, then you have to think about retainer income, right? Like monthly ARR, and like thinking about like every month you have to get to a regular income that's coming in, because it has to look profitable and it has to look like regular reoccurring income to the person trying to sell it. And it was mind blowing to me because I just was like, oh yeah, I never thought about any of that. Whoops. Like, you know, like anyway. I don't know, it's totally crazy. What do you think about that now with your baby? Like, group coaching is an interesting model because what you're thinking about subscription models, I'm assuming, like group calls, like monthly subscription things.
And it's you know, it's interesting because I basically have my clients on a subscription right now as it is. It's just one-on-one, right? It's ongoing coaching. I have a 6-month minimum, and then most of my clients stay with me anyways because I kind of become like a fractional business development manager for them. So it just seems to work this way. But again, I can only bring on so many clients that way with one-on-one.
Right.
And so
it's
the
only
group
24 hours
coaching
in a day, right?
Right.
And
So I'm actually, it's funny. I'm actually taking a workshop next week to learn more about like an example of somebody who's doing group coaching and putting together that offer and seeing what that could look like. Because I need to figure out how to scale this with less of my time. Licensing this as well might be an interesting option with my corporate clients. And so that's another area I'm exploring, like how can I create this product and license it to corporate businesses, and seeing if that's something I can do also on an annual basis, you know? So I'm trying to figure it out because again, like I want to grow the business, but I can't be spending, like he's only a newborn once, right? And here I am working full time already, but I want to be in his life. And so, and I am the primary breadwinner of the family too. Like my husband now is taking care of the kid. We're trying to figure out how to balance this. And I do have to figure out like a plan to make it work. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, I think, about being a working mom is like, especially if you are the breadwinner. I'm a breadwinner as well. And it's like we have the flexibility, right? We work in our home office, but do we really? Like, because yeah, I mean, I have flexibility. I'm going to go pick up my kids from school in an hour, but it's not the same, right? Like, it's like the flexibility. Of course we have flexibility. I can take off for the rest of the afternoon if I want.
Yeah.
But then
sure. Then you're not making money.
I have to make those hours. I still have to make those hours up. People think like the glamour that is showcased online of being an entrepreneur and like owning your own business. Like look how glamorous it is. No. I might take an afternoon off, but I still have to figure out how to put those hours back in because I can't just lose 4 hours. Like I can't just go away. Like I still have to. And it's just funny to me because there's a lot of fluff out there that makes it look like it's just like you hit an easy button and look.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not like that. It doesn't just the overnight wins are not real.
Oh my gosh. Like, yeah.
Overnight successes, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I thank you so much because this has been a great talk and I can't wait to meet your little human someday. It's going to be wonderful. You're going to put your mom. Anyway, I love
Yeah.
meeting other people's small humans because mine are no longer small and now they're teenagers and they talk back and they're stinky and they swear. So that's what raising three boys is like. Yeah, I have three boys and they're great humans, but it's like they're three boys and they're teenagers, so that's fun.
Yeah. Well, mine's got like explosive gas the last 2 days, so
There you
he's
go.
stinky
See?
too.
I mean, great. This is good stuff. All good things.
Way
So
too much. Sorry.
please tell everybody, yeah, please tell everybody where they can find you because I want them to go out and check out your content, obviously LinkedIn. Yeah, but the best way to contact you, the best way to find you if they want to work with you, ask you questions, all of those things. And then, of course, we'll drop all the information in the show notes too.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. As you can imagine, LinkedIn is the best place to connect with me and reach out, all the things. My website, I'm in the process of finally updating that because I built it over a weekend when I first launched my business. Don't go there.
Nice.
Yeah, check out my LinkedIn. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Natasha. This has been so wonderful, and I can't wait. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna have you back on because I can't wait to hear about the transition and
Thank you.
the big changes that are going on in the business. It's so exciting to me. I love having these types of calls with people who are then they get on the phone with us and they talk about this transition that they're going through. I'm like, oh sweet, we're gonna talk to you in like 6 months to a year, and we're gonna have you back on, and then you get to talk about the transition, what that was like, because that's a really cool
Sure.
thing for people to. I think it's a nice, like almost like a feel good story, right? Like people are so afraid to take the leap. And I know you're not because you've already done it once. So if you can do it once, you can do it again. And I can't wait to hear all about it.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll definitely. I'd love to come back on. Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be so good. Okay, everybody. We will see you next week. And remember, technology is only good when it works. And yeah, have a good rest of your week, everybody. Bye.